Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Welcome to all of you out there in cyberspace, to all the devotees here, the Rasika bumblebees that are always drinking the honey of the Srimad-Bhagavatam from the lotus mouth of Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
This is our spiritual duty, and Srila Prabhupada is certainly pleased in giving mercy to everyone who seriously hears every day like this. It's a special reading because we just mainly read, at least for an hour, Prabhupada's translation and purports every day, and that way we're working our way through the Srimad-Bhagavatam at the moment. When we finish, we'll go back to the Gita and do the Gita again, and then we'll do the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then we'll see if all of us are still here on a planet. We'll go on to the next thing, maybe Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Yes. Okay. All right. Sanatana Goswami's glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam is a wonderful piece of literature. It's short but sweet, deep, and sweet as nectar, and like a jewel that has facets, and let us hear to deepen our understanding in our reading. Okay, it's Srimad Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram from Sri Krishna Lila Stava by Srila Sanatana Goswami, and it goes like this. Sarva Shastabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidvandoditaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Savasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madhika Bando Matsangin Madguru Mad Mahadana Mad Nistadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Sadhu sadhu tadayin adini chochata kada hanamuncha gadachin mam premna rit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 All right, here we are. Chapter 5, Canto 9. We've heard how Durvasa Muni tried to escape the heat of the Sudarsana Chakra, and he went everywhere, all the way to Vaikuntha, and he met Lord Vishnu. And we heard the supreme nectar of Lord Vishnu explaining how he feels about his devotees, and telling him that even he couldn't save Durvasa Muni from the Sudarsana Chakra. And the only thing he can do is to take shelter and get the forgiveness of Maharaj Ambarish, who he offended. Summary, Chapter 5. Durvasa Muni's life spared. In this chapter, we find Maharaj Ambarish offering prayers to the Sudarshan Chakra, and we find how the Sudarshan Chakra became merciful to Durvasa Muni. By the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, Durvasa Muni immediately went to Maharaj Ambarish and fell at his lotus feet. Maharaj Ambarish, being naturally very humble and meek, felt shy and ashamed because Durvasa Muni had fallen at his feet. And thus he began to offer prayers to the Sudarshan Chakra just to save Durvasa. What is this Sudarshan Chakra? The Sudarshan Chakra is the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by which he creates the entire material world. Sa-aiksha, sa-asrijata. This is the Vedic version. The Sudarshan Chakra, which is the origin of creation and is most dear to the Lord, has thousands of spokes. This Sudarshan Chakra is the killer of the prowess of all other weapons, the killer of darkness, and the manifester of the prowess of devotional service. It is the means of establishing religious principles, and it is the killer of all irreligious activities. Without his mercy, the universe cannot be maintained, and therefore the Sudarshan Chakra is employed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When Maharaj Ambarish thus prayed that the Sudarshan Chakra be merciful, the Sudarshan Chakra, being appeased, refrained from killing Durvasa Muni, who thus achieved the Sudarshan Chakra's mercy. Durvasa Muni thus learned to give up the nasty idea of considering a Vaishnava an ordinary person, Vaishnave Jati Buddhi. Maharaj Ambarish belonged to the Kshatriya group, and therefore Durvasa Muni considered him lower than the Brahmanas and wanted to exercise Brahminical power against him. By this incident, everyone should learn how to stop mischievous ideas of neglecting Vaishnavas. After this incident, Maharaj Ambarish gave Durvasa Muni sumptuous food to eat, and then the king, who had been standing in the same place for 1 year without eating anything, also took prasad. Maharaj Ambarish later divided his property among his sons and went to the bank of the Manasa Sarovara to execute devotional meditation. Text 1. Shukadev Goswami said, when thus advised by Lord Vishnu, Durvasa Muni, who was very much harassed by the Sudarshan Chakra, immediately approached Maharaj Ambarish. Being very much aggrieved, the Muni fell down and clasped the king's lotus feet. Text 2. When Durvasa touched his lotus feet, Maharaj Ambarish was very much ashamed. And when he saw Durvasa attempting to offer prayers, because of mercy, he was aggrieved even more. Thus he immediately began offering prayers to the great weapon of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 3. Maharaj Ambarish said, O Sudarshan Chakra, you are fire, you are the most powerful sun, and you are the moon, the master of all luminaries. You are water, earth, and sky. You are the air. You are the 5 sense objects, sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. And you are the senses also. Text 4. O most favorite of Achyuta, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you have thousands of spokes. O Master of the material world, destroyer of all weapons, original vision of the Personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Kindly give shelter and be auspicious to the Brahmana. Text 5. O Sudarshan wheel, you are religion, you are truth, you are encouraging statements, you are sacrifice, and you are the enjoyer of the fruits of sacrifice. You are the maintainer of the entire universe, and you are the supreme transcendental prowess in the hands of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are the original vision of the Lord, and therefore you are known as Sudarshan. Everything has been created by your activities, and therefore you are all-pervading. Purport. The word Sudarshan means auspicious vision. From Vedic instructions we understand that this material world is created by the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sa-aikshata, Sa-adrita, Sa-asrijata. The Supreme Personality of Godhead glanced over the Mahat Tattva, or the total material energy, and when it was agitated, everything came into existence. Western philosophers sometimes think that the original cause of creation was a chunk that exploded. If one thinks of this chunk as the total material energy, the Mahatattva, one can understand that the chunk was agitated by the glance of the Lord, and thus the Lord's glance is the original cause of material creation. Text 6. O Sudarshan, you have a very auspicious hub, and therefore you are the upholder of all religion. You are just like an inauspicious comet for the irreligious demons. Indeed, you are the maintainer of the three worlds. You are full of transcendental effulgence. You are as quick as the mind, and you are able to work wonders. I can simply utter the word Namaha, offering all obeisances unto you. Purport. The disc of the Lord is called Sudarshan because he does not discriminate between high and low criminals or demons. Durvasa Muni was certainly a powerful Brahmana, but his acts against the pure devotee Maharaj Ambarish were no better than the activities of asuras. As stated in the Shastras, Dharmam tu sakshad bhagavat pranitam. The word Dharma refers to the orders or laws given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam braja. Real Dharma is surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, real Dharma means bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord. The Sudarshan Chakra is here addressed as Dharma Setave, the protector of Dharma. Maharaj Ambarish was a truly religious person, and consequently for his protection, the Sudarshan Chakra was ready to punish even such a strict Brahmana as Durvasa Muni, because he had acted like a demon. There are demons even in the form of Brahmanas. Therefore the Sudarshan Chakra does not discriminate between Brahmana demons and Shudra demons. Anyone against the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees is called a demon. In the Shastras we find many Brahmanas and Kshatriyas who acted as demons and have been described as demons. According to the verdict of the Shastras, one has to be understood according to his symptoms. If one is born of a Brahmana father, but his symptoms are demoniac, he is regarded as a demon. The Sudarshan Chakra is always concerned with annihilating the demons. Therefore he is described as Adharma Shila Sura Durma Ketave. Those who are not devotees are called Adharma Shila. The Sudarshan Chakra is just like an inauspicious comet for all such demons. Text 7. O Master of Speech, by your effulgence, full of religious principles, the darkness of the world is dissipated, and the knowledge of learned persons or great souls is manifested. Indeed, no one can surpass your effulgence. For all things, manifested and unmanifested, gross and subtle, superior and inferior, are but various forms of you that are manifested by your effulgence. Purport. Without illumination, nothing can be seen, especially in this material world. The illumination in this world emanates from the effulgence of Sudarshan, the original vision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The illuminating principles of the sun, the moon, and fire emanate from Sudarshan. Similarly, illumination by knowledge also comes from Sudarshan, because with the illumination of Sudarshan, one can distinguish one thing from another, the superior from the inferior. Generally, people accept a powerful yogi like Durvasa Muni as wonderfully superior. But if such a person is chased by the Sudarshan chakra, we can see his real identity and understand how inferior he is because of his dealings with devotees. Text 8. O indefatigable one, O indefatigable one, when you were sent by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to enter among the soldiers of the Daityas and the Danavas, you stay on the battlefield and unendingly separate their arms, bellies, thighs, legs, and heads. Text 9. O protector of the universe, you are engaged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his all-powerful weapon in killing the envious enemies. For the benefit of our entire dynasty, kindly favor this poor Brahmana. This will certainly be a favor for all of us. Text 10. If our family has given charity to the proper persons, if we have performed ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices, if we have properly carried out our occupational duties, and if we have been guided by learned brahmanas, I wish in exchange that this brahmana be freed from the burning caused by the Sudarshan chakra. Text 11. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is one without a second, who is the reservoir of all transcendental qualities, and who is the life and soul of all living entities, is pleased with us, we wish that this Brahmana, Durvasa Muni, be freed from the pain of being burned. Text 12. Shukadeva Goswami continued, when the king offered prayers to the Sudarshan chakra and Lord Vishnu, because of his prayers, the Sudarshan chakra became peaceful and stopped burning the Brahmana known as Durvasa Muni. Text 13. Durvasa Muni, the greatly powerful mystic, was indeed satisfied when freed from the fire of the Sudarshan chakra. Thus he praised the qualities of Maharaj Ambarish and offered him the highest benedictions. Text 14. Durvasa Muni said, my dear king, today I have experienced the greatness of devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for although I have committed an offense, you have prayed for my good fortune. Text 15. For those who have achieved the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of the pure devotees, what is impossible to do and what is impossible to give up. Text 16. What is impossible for the servants of the Lord? By the very hearing of his holy name, one is purified. 17. O king, overlooking my offenses, you have saved my life. Thus I am very much obliged to you, because you are so merciful. Text 18. Expecting the return of Durvasa Muni, the king had not taken his food. Therefore, when the sage returned, the king fell at his lotus feet, pleasing him in all respects, and fed him sumptuously. Text 19. Thus the king respectfully received Durvasa Muni, who after eating varieties of palatable food was so satisfied that with great affection he requested the king to eat also, saying, please take your meal. Text 20. Durvasa Muni said, I am very pleased with you, my dear king, At first I thought of you as an ordinary human being and accepted your hospitality. But later I could understand by my own intelligence that you are the most exalted devotee of the Lord. Therefore, simply by seeing you, touching your feet, and talking with you, I have been pleased and have become obliged to you. Purport. It is said, Vaishnavara Kriya Mudra Vigeha Na Bhujaya. Even a very intelligent man cannot understand the activities of a pure Vaishnava. Therefore, because Durvasa Muni was a great mystic yogi, he first mistook Maharaj Ambarish for an ordinary human being and wanted to punish him. Such is the mistaken observation of a Vaishnava. When Durvasa Muni was persecuted by the Sudarshan Chakra, however, his intelligence developed. Therefore, the word Atma Medasa is used to indicate that by his personal experience, he would understand how great a Vaishnava the king was. When Durvasa Muni was chased by the Sudarshan Chakra, he wanted to take shelter of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and he was even able to go to the spiritual world, meet the personality of Godhead, and talk with him face to face. Yet he was unable to be rescued from the attack of the Sudarshan Chakra. Thus he could understand the influence of a Vaishnava by personal experience. Durvasa Muni was certainly a great yogi and a very learned Brahmana, but despite his being a real yogi, he was unable to understand the influence of a Vaishnava. Therefore it is said, Vaishnavara Kriya Mudra Vigyeha Na Bhujaya. Even the most learned person cannot understand the value of a Vaishnava. There is always a possibility for so-called jnanis and yogis to be mistaken when studying the character of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava can understand by how much he is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in terms of his inconceivable activities. Text 21. All the blessed women in the heavenly planets will continuously chant about your spotless character at every moment, and the people of this world will also chant your glories continuously. 22. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, thus being satisfied in all respects, the great mystic yogi Durvasa took permission and left, continuously glorifying the king. Through the skyways he went to Brahmaloka, which is devoid of agnostics and dry philosophical speculators. Purport. Although Durvasa Muni went back to Brahmaloka through the spaceways, he did not need an airplane, for great mystic yogis can transport themselves from any planet to any other without any machine. There is a planet named Siddhaloka, whose inhabitants can go to any other planet because they naturally have all the perfection of yoga practice. This Durvasa Muni, the great mystic yogi, could go through the skyways to any planet, even to Brahmaloka. In Brahmaloka, everyone is self-satisfied, and thus there is no need of philosophical speculation to come to the conclusion of the absolute truth. Durvasa Muni's purpose in going to Brahmaloka was apparently to speak to the residents of Brahmaloka about how powerful a devotee is, and how a devotee can surpass every living entity within this material world. The so-called jnanis and yogis cannot compare to a devotee. Text 23. Durvasa Muni had left the place of Maharaj Ambarish, and as long as he had not returned, for 1 complete year, the king had fasted, maintaining himself simply by drinking water. Text 24. After 1 year, when Durvasa Muni had returned, King Ambarish sumptuously fed him all varieties of pure food, and then himself, just a second. Oops. Okay. After 1 year, when Durvasa Muni had returned, King Ambarish sumptuously fed him all varieties of pure food, and then he himself also ate. When the king saw that the Brahmana Durvasa had been released from the great danger of being burned, he could understand that by the grace of the Lord he himself was also powerful. But he did not take any credit for everything that had been done by the Lord. Purport. A devotee like Maharaj Ambarish is certainly always busy in many activities. Of course, this material world is full of dangers that one has to meet, but a devotee, because of his full dependence on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is never disturbed. The vivid example is Maharaj Ambarish. He was the emperor of the entire world and had many duties to perform. And in the course of these duties, there were many disturbances created by persons like Durvasa Muni. But the king tolerated everything, patiently depending fully on the mercy of the Lord. The Lord, however, is situated in everyone's heart, sarvasya chaham hridi sanavishto, and he manages things as he desires. Thus, although Maharaj Ambarish was faced with many disturbances, the Lord, being merciful to him, managed things so nicely that in the end, Durvasa Muni and Maharaj Ambarish became great friends and parted cordially on the basis of Bhakti Yoga. After all, Durvasa Muni was convinced of the power of Bhakti Yoga, although he himself was a great mystic yogi. Therefore is stated by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 6:47, Yoginam apisarvesham madkatenantaratmanaha ma shadhavan bhajate yomam same yukta namo mataha. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. Thus it is a fact that a devotee is the topmost yogi, as proved in the dealings of Maharaj Ambarish with Durvasa Muni. Text 25. In this way, because of devotional service, Maharaj Ambarish, who was endowed with varieties of transcendental qualities, was completely aware of Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus he executed devotional service perfectly. Because of his devotion, he thought even the topmost planet of this material world no better than the hellish planets. Purport. An exalted and pure devotee, like Maharaj Ambarish, is in full awareness of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. In other words, a devotee of Vasudeva, Krishna, is in full knowledge of the other features of the Absolute Truth. The Absolute Truth is realized in three features: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabhyate. A devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, knows everything. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Because Vasudeva, Krishna, includes both Paramatma and Brahman. One does not have to realize Paramatma by the yoga system, for the devotee always thinking of Vasudeva is the topmost yogi, yoginam, apisarvesham. And as far as Gyan is concerned, if one is a perfect yogi of Vasudeva, he is the greatest Mahatma, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Samahatma, Sudurlabhaha. A Mahatma is one who has full knowledge of the Absolute Truth. Thus, Maharaj Ambarish, being a devotee of the Personality of Godhead, was in full awareness of Paramatma, Brahman, Maya, the material world, the spiritual world, and how things are going on everywhere. Everything was known to him. Kasmin nu bhagavo vigyate sarvam idam vigyatam babhatiti. Mundaka Upanishad 1:3. Because the devotee knows Vasudeva, he knows everything within the creation of Vasudeva. Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Samahatma, Sadurlabhaha. Such a devotee does not give much value to the highest standard of happiness within this material world. Narayana padak sarve, na kutaschana bibyati, swarga pavarga narakeshu, apitulyarta darshinaha. Srimad-Bhagavatam 6:17-28. Because he is fixed in devotional service, a devotee does not regard any position in the material world as important. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati has therefore written, Chaitanya Chandramrita 5, Kaivalyam nadakarete, Tridashapur, Akasha pushpayate, Durdantendriyakala sarpa patali, Prokata dangstrayate, Vishwam purna sukayate, Vidi mahendradish chakitayate, Yat karunya katakshavi babadatam, Tam gordam evastumaha. For one who becomes a pure devotee through devotional service to great personalities like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kaivalya, or merging into Brahman, appears no better than hell. As far as the heavenly planets are concerned, to a devotee they are like phantasmagoria or will-o'-the-wisp. And as far as yogic perfection is concerned, a devotee does not care a fig for such perfection, since the purpose of yogic perfection is achieved automatically by the devotee. This is all possible when one becomes a devotee of the Lord through the medium of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions. Text 26. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, Thereafter, because of his advanced position in devotional life, Maharaj Ambarish, who no longer desired to live with material things, retired from active family life. He divided his property among his sons, who were equally as qualified, and he himself took the order of Vanaprastha and went to the forest to concentrate his mind fully upon Lord Vasudeva. Purport. As a pure devotee, Maharaj Ambarish was liberated in any condition of life, because, as enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami, a devotee is always liberated. Iha yasya harir dasye karmana manasa gira nikilasva avastasu jivan mukta sauchate. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami had thus instructs that if one's only desire is service to the Lord, he is liberated in any condition of life. Maharaj Ambarish was undoubtedly liberated in any condition, but as an ideal king, he accepted the Vanaprastha order of retirement from family life. It is essential for one to renounce family responsibilities and fully concentrate on the lotus feet of Vasudeva. Therefore, Maharaj Ambarish divided the kingdom among his sons and retired from family life. Text 27. Anyone who chants this narration, or even thinks of this narration about the activities of Maharaj Ambarish, certainly becomes a pure devotee of the Lord.
Jai.
Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur herein gives a very good example. When one is very eager for more and more money, he is not satisfied even when he is a millionaire or multimillionaire, but wants to earn more and more money by any means. The same mentality is present in a devotee. The devotee is never satisfied, thinking, this is the limit of my devotional service. The more he engages in the service of the Lord, the more service he wants to give. This is the position of a devotee. Maharaj Ambarish, in his family life, was certainly a pure devotee, complete in every respect, because his mind and all his senses were engaged in devotional service. Savai Manak Krishna Padada Vindiyor, Bachang Chi Vaikunta Gunav Navarnane. Maharaj Ambarish was self-satisfied because all of his senses were engaged in devotional service. Sarvopadi, vinirmuktam, tatpadatmanena, nirmalam, rishikena rishikesha, sevanam, bhaktir, uchate. Nonetheless, although Maharaj Ambarish had engaged all his senses in devotional service, he left his home and went to the forest to concentrate his mind fully at the lotus feet of Krishna, exactly as a mercantile man, even though complete in wealth, tries to earn more and more. This mentality of getting more and more engaged in devotional service puts one in the most exalted position. Whereas on the karma platform, the mercantile man who wants more and more money becomes increasingly bound and entangled. The devotee becomes increasingly liberated. Text 28. By the grace of the Lord, those who hear about the activities of Maharaj Ambarish, the great devotee, certainly becomes liberated or become devotees without delay. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 5th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Durvasa Muni's Life Spared. Jai Maharaj Ambarish ki Jai, Durvasa Muni ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. Okay, lots to think about the end of that chapter, so let us move on to the next before we have our reflections. Chapter 6, The Downfall of Sobari Muni. After describing the descendants of Maharaj Ambarish, Shukadev Goswami described all the kings from Shashada to Mandata. And in this connection, he also described how the great sage Saubari married the daughters of Mandata. Maharaj Ambarish had 3 sons, named Virupa, Ketuman, and Shambhu. The sons of Virupa were Prishadashva, and his son, the son of Virupa, was Prishadashva, and his son was Ratitara. Ratitara had no sons, but when he requested the favor of the great sage Angira, the sage begot several sons in the womb of Ratitara's wife. When the sons were born, they became the dynasty of Angira Rishi and of Ratitara. The son of Manu was Ikshwaku, who had 100 sons, of whom Vikukshi, Nimi, and Dandaka were the eldest. The sons of Maharaj Ikshwaku became kings of different parts of the world. Because of violating sacrificial rules and regulations, one of these sons, Bhikukshi, was banished from the kingdom. By the mercy of Vishishta and the power of mystic yoga, Maharaj Ikshwaku attained liberation after giving up his material body. When Maharaj Ikshwaku expired, his son Bhikukshi returned and took charge of the kingdom. He performed various types of sacrifices, and thus he pleased the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This Bhikukshi later became celebrated as Shashada. Bhikukshi's son fought with the demons for the sake of the demigods, and because of his valuable service, he became famous as Puranjaya, Indravaha, and Kakutsa. The son of Puranjaya was Anena. The son of Anena was Prithu, and the son of Prithu was Vishwagandhi. The son of Vishwagandhi was Chandra. The son of Chandra was Yuvanashva, and his son was Shavasta, who constructed Shavastipuri. The son of Shavasta was Brihadbashva. Brihadbashva's son, Kulavyashva, killed a demon named Dandu, and thus he became celebrated as Dandumara, the killer of Dandu. The sons of the killer of Dandu were Dridashva, Kapilashva, and Bhadrashva. He also had thousands of other sons, but they burned to ashes in the fire emanating from Dundu. The son of Dridashva was Haryashva. The son of Haryashva was Nikumba. The son of Nikumba was Bahulashva, and the son of Bahulashva was Krishashva. The son of Krishashva was Senajit, and his son was Yuvanashva. Yuvanashva married 100 wives, but he had no sons, and therefore he entered the forest. In the forest, the sages performed a sacrifice known as Indra Yagya on his behalf. Once, however, the king became so thirsty in the forest that he drank the water kept for performing yagya. Consequently, after some time, a son came forth from the right side of his abdomen. The son, who was very beautiful, was crying to drink breast milk, and Indra gave the child his index finger to suck. Thus the son became known as Mandata. In due course of time, Yuvanashva achieved perfection by performing austerities. Therefore, Mandata became the emperor and ruled the earth, which consists of 7 islands. Thieves and rogues were very much afraid of this powerful king, and therefore the king was known as Trasadasyu, meaning one who was very fearful to rogues and thieves. Mandata begot sons in the womb of his wife Bindumati. These sons were Purukutsa, Ambarish, and Muchakunda. These sons had 50 sisters. These 3 sons had 50 sisters, all of whom became wives of the great sage known as Sobari. In this connection, Shukadeva Goswami described the history of Sobari Muni, who because of sensual agitation caused by fish, fell from his yoga and wanted to marry all the daughters of Mandata for sexual pleasure. Later, Sobara Muni became very regretful. Thus, he accepted the order of Vanaprastha, performed very severe austerities, and thus attained perfection. In this regard, Shukadeva Goswami described how Sobara Muni's wives also became perfect. Text 1. Big chapter. Shukadeva Goswami said, O Maharaj Parikshit, Ambarish had 3 sons, named Virupa, Ketuman, and Shambhu. From Virupa came a son named Prishadashva, and from Prishadashva came a son named Ratitara. Text 2. Ratitara had no sons, and therefore he requested the great sage Angira to beget sons for him. Because of this request, Angira begot sons in the womb of Ratitara's wife. All these sons were born with Brahminical prowess. Purport. In the Vedic age, a man was sometimes called upon to beget sons in the womb of a lesser man's wife for the sake of better progeny. In such an instance, the woman is compared to an agricultural field. A person possessing an agricultural field may employ another person to produce food grains from it, but because the grains are produced from the land, they are considered the property of the owner of the land. Similarly, a woman was sometimes allowed to be impregnated by someone other than her husband, but the sons born of her would then become her husband's sons. Such sons were called Chetrajata. Because Ratitara had no sons, he took advantage of this method. Nowadays they have the father's over here, the mother's over here, and they do it through putting eggs from one into the other, and this and that. Okay, surrogate. What do they call it? Surrogate mothers.
Yeah.
Now they have surrogate mothers, but just because it came from her womb doesn't mean it's hers, because this seed came from somebody else artificially, and therefore it was the.
Yeah.
These things are going on. material existence. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Text 3. Having been born from the womb of Ratitara's wife, all these sons were known as the dynasty of Ratitara, but because they were born from the semen of Angira, they were also known as the dynasty of Angira. Among all the progeny of Ratitara, these sons were the most prominent because owing to their birth, they were considered brahmanas. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the meaning of Dvijataya as mixed caste, indicating a mixture of Brahmana and Kshatriya. Text 4. The son of Manu was Ikshvaku. When Manu was sneezing, Ikshvaku was born from Manu's nostrils. King Ikshvaku had 100 sons, of whom Vikukshi, Nimi, and Dandaka were the most prominent. Purport. According to Sridhar Swami, although the Bhagavatam 9.1, 11, and 12 has previously included Ikshvaku among the 10 sons begotten by Manu and his wife Shraddha, this was a generalization. It is here specifically explained that Ikshvaku was born simply from the sneezing of Manu. Text 5. Of the 100 sons, 25 became kings in the western side of Aryavata, a place between the Himalaya and Vindhya mountains. Another 25 sons became kings in the east of Aryavata. And the 3 principal sons became kings in the middle. The other sons became kings in various other places. Text 6. During the months of January, February, and March, oblations offered to the forefathers are called Ashtaka Shraddha. The Shraddha ceremony is held during the dark fortnight of the month. When Maharaj Ikshvaku was performing his oblations in this ceremony, he ordered his son Vikukshi to go immediately to the forest to bring some pure flesh. Text 7. Thereafter Ikshvaku's son Vikukshi went to the forest and killed many animals suitable for being offered as oblations. But when fatigued and hungry, he became forgetful and ate a rabbit he had killed. Purport. It is evident that Kshatriyas killed animals in the forest because the flesh of the animals was suitable to be offered at a particular type of yajna. Offering oblations to the forefathers in the ceremony known as Shraddha is also a kind of yajna. In this yajna, flesh obtained from the forest by hunting could be offered. However, in the present age, Kali Yuga, this kind of offering is forbidden. Quoting from the Brahma-Vaivarta Purana, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Ashwamedam Gavalambam Sanyasam Palapaitrikam Davarena Sutotpatim Kalaupancha Vibarjayet. C.C. Adi 17.164. In this age of Kali, 5 acts are forbidden. The offering of a horse in sacrifice, the offering of a cow in sacrifice, the acceptance of the order of sannyas, the offering of oblations of flesh to the forefathers, and a man's begetting children in his brother's wife. The word pala paitrikam refers to an offering of flesh and oblations to forefathers. Formerly, such an offering was allowed, but in this age, it is forbidden. In this age, Kali Yuga, everyone is expert in hunting animals, but most of the people are Shudras, not Kshatriyas. According to the Vedic injunctions, however, only Kshatriyas are allowed to hunt, whereas Shudras are allowed to eat flesh after offering goats or other insignificant animals before the deity of goddess Kali or similar demigods. On the whole, meat eating is not completely forbidden. A particular class of men is allowed to eat meat according to various circumstances and injunctions. As far as eating beef is concerned, however, it is strictly prohibited to everyone. Thus, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna personally speaks of Go Raksha, cow protection. Meat eaters, according to their different positions in the directions of the Shastra are allowed to eat flesh, but never the flesh of cows. Cows must be given all protection. Text 8. Bhikkhukshi offered the remnants of the flesh to King Ikshwaku, who gave it to Vishishta for purification. But Vishishta could immediately understand that part of the flesh had already been taken by Bhikkhukshi, and therefore he said that it was unfit to be used in the Shraddha ceremony. So this is a hint of what it means to be a qualified Brahmana, to offer sacrifices. You have to be so perceptive that you can see something like that and not do something that would cause the sacrifice to be. I mean, aside from the fact that you have to chant the mantras exactly perfectly with the power of pure being a pure Brahmana, you also have to be able to know these kinds of things. And not just that kind of thing, but a lot of things like that, in order to be able to make sure that the sacrifice is not ruined. And we've read in many places in the Bhagavatam how sacrifices get ruined because somebody says the mantra wrong, or the wife of the sacrifice says, "Hey, by the way, I want a girl instead of a boy. Could you arrange it?" Something like that. You know, a person on the level of Vishishta wouldn't allow something like that. Okay. It is 7:30. We will stop here. Wait, let me see. Let's do the purport first. Purport. That which is meant to be offered in yajna cannot be tasted by anyone before being offered to the deity. In our temples, this regulation is in effect. One cannot eat food from the kitchen unless it is offered to the deity. If something is taken before being offered to the deity, the entire preparation is polluted and can no longer be offered. Those engaged in deity worship must know this very well so that they may be saved from committing offenses in deity worship. And we will stop there. Now 7:30 exactly. Find out more about what happened to Bhikkhukshi tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo. All right, time for our reflection. Yes, Bhakti Chris.
Thank you, Maharaj, for that wonderful story. I just wanted to reflect on the previous story with Durvasa Muni. I just today told the story to both my parents, and it was wonderful because, as the scripture said, they too began interested in worshiping, and I, for the first time ever, almost got them to come here today. So it's a matter of time before this happens. And and I just wanted to give gratitude to the scripture and to the words and to the stories and to the literature, because it truly does save. So thank you.
We look forward to the day. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, Pranahari, enlighten us further.
Well, I just thought I'd mention the I think Maharaj Ambarish's character is noteworthy because as Durvasa Muni was sending this demon to kill him, and then to save his own skin approached Maharaj Ambarish. Maharaj Ambarish had no sense of revenge and prayed for his welfare, prayed that whatever good I've done, may that result be given to this Brahmana. And I thought just a few things were pretty amazing. How he felt embarrassed and ashamed that Durvasa Muni was bowing before him and touching his feet and offering prayers to him. He felt ashamed, and then he fasted that whole year long again. So he fasted that whole year, and then a whole nother year, and then after all this, then he served Durvasa Muni the nice feast. So, just observing the super excellence of Maharaj Ambarish's character, the character of a completely pure devotee, and I believe it said that there's a list of devotees who are exemplars for each of the 9 angas of devotional service. Shravanam is Maharaj Parikshit, Kirtanam Shukadeva Goswami, and so on. Atma Nivedanam was Bali Maharaj, and now we hear Maharaj Ambarish, who I think is said to exemplify all of those 9 characteristics.
Yes, that's right.
And
that's correct.
It's just, I guess, it's just very medicinal to hear the character of the pure devotees hearing the Bhagavatam like this.
Yes, and also because I was thinking while you were talking that most people in the world, they become so impressed with mystic things. People with mystic powers, mystic perfections, or powerful positions, and all of that. And Durvasa Muni, he was not just an ordinary mystic yogi. He could go to the spiritual world and meet Vishnu face to face, and that's not the only time he's done it. So he was really out there in terms of power, mystic yoga. So that Maharaj Ambarish eclipsed him in such a profound way that it caused him to fall at his feet. Shows in a very dramatic way, very, very. I just heard, a verse. I think it was Gopi Purana was saying that, or maybe we read it. And I remember I've been reading so many things lately. I can't remember. Can't keep one thing track from the other. Maybe it was in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It says that the activities. Maybe it was this one. The activities of a pure devotee are difficult to understand. Yeah, it was in this one. So even powerful people, materialists, they can't understand the activities of a pure devotee. That's why when we hear about what Prabhupada did, because this is another example of how a person who appears just to, he doesn't, not an ordinary person, but he may come from kind of like an ordinary background. Prabhupada, it seemed externally like he was an external, but he was. No one has ever done what he's done, what he did. No one, and no one ever will do, because it only can be done once, what Prabhupada did. So that's enough to, hopefully chasten everybody, including all of us. We should never think that we have, that level of, devotional strength and favor of Lord Chaitanya. Influence, Yes, Bhakti, please.
On that point you just made, I wanted to just add something. I remember hearing that it said after Maharaj Ambarish, after he fasted for that whole year, and then he saw that the Sudarshan disc it stopped chasing after Durvasa Muni. He actually witnessed the influence and the power that he has. But it said, like myself or most other normal people likely get puffed up by that, he completely just attributed it. He knew where it was coming from, and he's like, I'm not doing this, it's all Krishna.
Yeah. Yes. That's dainya. One aspect of dainya, or the level of humility that is, as Sanatana Goswami calls it, an essential prerequisite for prema, is dainya. And dainya means just that you think yourself so humble, that everyone else is superior to you. That person becomes so attractive to Krishna. Because with that heart, with that level of heart, when the person offers something to Krishna, you know how it is, like when a little child comes to, give you something, that there's nothing else there except just he wants you to have it. Little baby, come over, and the guest comes in, and the baby comes over to look, gives. It just opens your heart immediately, isn't it? It just opens your heart immediately. Because you know there's no pretension. There's no, what does it Jesus say? You have to become as a little child in order to enter into the kingdom of God. Like that. The heart has to become purified to the point where we become like that. That's the goal of chanting Hare Krishna. So our heart becomes completely purified, so we can offer what we offer to Krishna with pure innocence, pure affection, and therefore pure attractiveness. Yes, Bhakta Marcus. Hare
Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Bhakta Marcus.
I enjoyed the story, the last chapter that we read, in regards to the fact that even though Durvasa Muni was in fact a greatly powerful mystic yogi, he still maintained this bodily conception of life because he was continuously running from the Sudarshan chakra. And one would suspect a elevated mystic yogi to be free from this bodily conception. It's stated virtually anywhere in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And I feel that it just alludes to the fact that, although, you can have some type of mystic perfection, it's not the total perfection, as is stated later in the chapter. The only way, and he recognized Maharaj Ambarish's purity in his bhakti yoga practice, and how that is the true way in which we can transcend the material, because ultimately the mystic yoga is a material feat, manipulation of the matter.
Yes.
Yes,
that's exactly right. It is manipulation of matter.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Very good. Very good conclusion.
Yes.
Very nice. Thank you. Yes, Pranay's got something to add.
No, I just had something
Please.
a little separate.
Please.
I was just thinking how in this 9th canto, there's several pastimes that we're just reading this chapter now about the downfall of Sabari Muni. So there's Sabari Muni, and then there's Pururava with Urvashi, and then King Yayati.
Yes.
And I was considering that these pastimes display how we have to be, it's basically like purification before the 10th canto, I was thinking.
Exactly.
So that I don't know if anywhere else in the previous cantos, I mean throughout the Bhagavatam there's examples where bewildered by the sex desire, but then in this 9th canto it's like a few big ones. It's more concentrated right
give us
before.
a little jolt just to remind us big time. That's right. That's right. That's the big bopper. Prabhupada said if you can overcome that one, then you're 50 to 75% home. The big bopper. First just tolerate it, and then if you can tolerate it and actually overcome it, then it's so much easier. Spiritual life is so much easier. So, what's that mean? What does that mean? That means that, in order to actually do that, you have to have a depth of, or a strength and depth of desire for Krishna. And you have to actually understand Krishna and how it is the goal. It's like even if you're in the material world and you want to do some outstanding thing, you want to earn a gold medal at the Olympics, or be the star performer at Carnegie Hall or in the opera, or win the NBA finals or whatever it is. Become the president of the United States. Then you have to sacrifice a lot to do those kinds of things. You have to dedicate your whole life, and you have to train. You have to convince other people to support you and give you patronage so that you can have, all the facilities that you need to do that. It's a huge thing, So therefore, we should never take lightly, what pure devotional service is. even though it seemed, Maharaj Amrit just standing there like this, what's he doing to fight, this, Durvasa Muni, just like, humbly. But the power of that humility, the power of that forgiveness, the power of, this is Brahma Tejas. This is the opposite of the Kshatriya Tejas, because they protect Dharma by the arms, by the force of their power and arms. But Brahmins protect it by their words and their thoughts and their character. Yeah, the character of Maharaj Ambrish shines through, and the character of a pure Vaishnava shines through in this. I mean, there are actually many times when Prabhupada was confronted with, significant opposition, especially when he went back to India with all of us, Westerners who were acting like, more or less like, anyway, I won't even mention what some of us was acting like, but our kirtans were like, they'd never seen anything like it. Lord Chaitanya's kirtans. Even today, ISKCON's kirtans are different than any of the other groups, that you see that come from India, that, even in the same line from some of the gurus. Gaudiya Math broke up, and now it's a bunch of small, temples, and you see their kirtans. It's nothing like what we do. You see our Rath Yatras, London Rath Yatra, New York Rath Yatra, Los Angeles Rath Yatra, Melbourne, and all these big Rath Yatras. There's nothing like the kirtans, or even in our Janmastamis in our temples, nothing like the kirtans, or nothing like this, the intensity of the reading of Prabhupada's books like this. It's not going on so much, but whenever it does, it's very intense, very intense. Yeah, this is all a reflection of the mystic power of Prabhupada, the power of a pure devotee. The sound vibration is just unmatchable. And I was going to say that when he went back to India, there's a story that was told to me by Harikesh. At that time, he was Prabhupada's secretary, and Prabhupada was in, I think, Hyderabad. Yeah, it was. In fact, I was in Hyderabad at that time, but I wasn't around Prabhupada. He was staying in a place, in a big guy's place. I don't remember who he was. Anyway, there was a group of big businessmen and Brahmins. They came to see Prabhupada. And Harikesh told me that he was very curious because that had never happened before, where a group of men came to see Prabhupada like that. So he was like curious, so he looked inside. Those Harikesh was a little precocious, He looked inside, and these men surrounded Prabhupada, and they were all getting on his case, Same thing, how can you ruin the Hindu religion by making these lechas and yavanas, bringing them in here and going out, they went on, and Prabhupada just stood in the center, Harikesh said, and he was just he took it all in, and then one by one, they kind of ran out of steam and kind of left, and Prabhupada was left in the room by himself, and he just, I don't remember exactly what he did, but I remember Harikesh saying that he just was chuckling. He was laughing to himself, because they had no idea what he was doing. They couldn't comprehend, what was happening. Even the Indian Parliament, at one point, they thought we were CIA agents. At that time, the relationship between America and India wasn't so good. So they thought we were their spies. They said the chakra in the temple was a radar thing or something, They were putting out all this anti-propaganda, And Prabhupada just, look at Prabhupada. He looked very small, and when you looked at him physically, when he was sitting and he was speaking, he looked like a giant. He was just like such a personality. But when he came and walked through the airport hallways and this and that, you just couldn't imagine that he was so powerful like that. But he was, because of the character, of a pure Vaishnava who's just doing what he's doing for pleasing Krishna and for no other reason. out of compassion for the fallen souls, sacrificing himself for the fallen souls. That's where that power comes from. The satisfaction of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, with your permission I'll move on because I gotta save my voice for tomorrow morning again. We've gotten 2 really good days in. By the way, Risika Shiromani is also getting good at it. He's went through a little bit of a learning curve, and now he's getting good at it, so it's starting to go smooth every day. Did 26 pages a day, 32 pages yesterday. So if we average 25 for the rest before we leave in the 15th of September for India, we'll finish the Madhya Lila, if we can do that, by the grace of the devotees, by the power and the inspiration of the devotees, the blessings of the devotees. Were you going to say something? You had another thing.
There were a few online.
Oh, okay, go ahead. We have some online nectar.
These are, speaking of which, these are actually from Rasika.
Rasika Shiromani, where are you?
Yeah. This first one by him is a reflection. He says, "It is remarkable that although Ambarish Maharaj was a most perfect devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he still took to the renounced order at the end of his life. His concern to be free from any desire for sense gratification was so great that he felt himself not prepared for the final journey of life. How much more those of us who are rife with attachments for the material energy?" Oh, and here's the question. Could you elaborate on the connection between freedom from material attachments, Krishna consciousness, and the 4 spiritual orders of life?
Well, only the Brahmanas, in the Vedic age, only the Brahmanas were allowed to take sannyas. The Kshatriyas were allowed only to take vanaprastha. That was the highest order they were allowed to take. So therefore, in the verse, if you remember, Maharaj Ambarish took vanaprastha. He went to the forest and he did austerities as a vanaprastha. So, I mean, we have to look at this as a whole. The more we can see things as a whole rather than as one little part of it and how it fits together, the more deeper we can go into understanding, what the Vedic culture was. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse that says that whatever your duty is, whether you're a Shudra, a Brahmana, a Vaishya, or a Kshatriya, or whatever your occupation duty is also, if you did your duty properly, according to the Vedic rules and regulations, for the pleasure of Krishna only, then you attain perfection. It's not that you have to be a Brahmana to attain perfection, or even a Kshatriya to attain perfection. You can be a Shudra, and you may not, in the Shudra, in terms of ashram, grahastha. That's it. The Shudra doesn't go beyond grahastha. But if he does the grahastha ashram properly, and is loyal to the master and his service and the service that he does, and he does for the pleasure of Krishna, it's noble. That person is considered a noble soul. So I remember when I was in Cambridge visiting Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he had this photo book of India, black and white, one of those real high quality picture books that you put on your table in the living room so that everybody could read it, or in the doctor's office before you go in. They have all these things to look at. And it was a photo of India, and it was previous to 1920. It was in around 1900s. And even there were a couple of places that were familiar with us, to us, things that we traveled a lot in India. And everything looked so pristine. There was no oil and no plastic and no dirt and no garbage. It was like everything was just pristine. It was dirt. There was no, paved anything in those days. But I remember specifically we were looking at a picture of a market, and there were people that sitting and selling vegetables and things like that, and the faces of the people looked like carved, I don't know, they looked noble. And then I thought, oh, sometimes when you see these farmers in Braj, you see in Rajasthan and Braj, you see they've got these big turbans and they've got a white mustache like this, and you look at their faces and they look like some demigod or something, right? Like very noble, even though they're ruddy and rugged. Worked the land and worked hard, their whole life. They look very noble, So I think if we just look at it as a whole and see that all the parts of human society in the Varnashram system are actually meant for pleasing Krishna, and they cooperate together to do that. They have their own duties, even during the sacrifices, the Shudras had to do certain things. They had to dig the holes and build things out of wood and hammer things out of metal in order to get the thing set up. They would get the same benefit as the Brahmins chanting the mantras. Everybody would get the same, would get the benefit from their own duties for the pleasure of Krishna in sacrifice. So now it's just the opposite in Kali Yuga. It's everybody for themselves, I mean, my generation was called the me generation. We were the first me generations. The generation before me, my mother and father, and that generation that took down Hitler, they were called the great generation, or something like that, wasn't it? You don't even know. This is before your time. But they were called the greatest generation, or something like that, because they went in and just sacrificed their lives to take down Hitler. That's why the Germans now are just amazed at what's going on in America today, that the white nationalists and white supremacists are getting a voice. They're just wondering what's going on over there. So anyway, if you look at it the whole, everyone is meant to renounce at the end, but the Shudras who are just grihastas, they wouldn't take sannyas. They wouldn't take vanapras. They would just kind of retire and do their spiritual duties and move away from their, But everyone was expected to eventually detach themselves from the materialistic nature, the material nature, and go exclusively to Krishna. Does that say anything? Did I just say anything, or I just completely confused the atmosphere?
No, it was great.
It was okay?
Yeah.
Is there something else from Rasika? Rasika's always got good reflections.
There's one last one from Rati.
Okay, Rati.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Tonight we heard about the importance and the glory of the Sudarshan Chakra. I found it quite impressive to consider. I have a question in this regard. Some aspects of my question might be born from my material contaminated vision. Please enlighten me. Sometimes we see that with the deities of Lord Jagannath, Subhadra, and Baladev, there is also Sudarshan Chakra installed, and sometimes not. In our yatra, for example, Srila Prabhupada installed Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra back in the 70s, but the Sudarshan Chakra is not visible. Does this make a difference in, for example, the power of the deities? How should we understand this? Could there be a reason why one would even on a later date install a Sudarshan Chakra, or would that be offensive?
It's time and circumstance. It's time and circumstance. We shouldn't try to mechanize devotional service and try to say in one place this is on the altar, and in another place that's on the altar, and maybe, it's time and circumstance. The Sudarshan Chakra normally, it has a form, a human form. There's a Sudarshan Chakra in Nubrajadam, in one of the altars. Time and circumstance. In some places we don't put Ugra Nishinga because if it's just mainly householder situation, it may disturb the householders situation. So I don't know, maybe it's time and circumstance. It's emerging situations, especially when Prabhupada was there and was installing deities. I mean, we didn't know what we were doing in the very beginning. Prabhupada, remember in New Jagannath Puri, I came to Krishna consciousness in New Jagannath Puri, San Francisco, and Malati went to the Cost Plus or something and saw this barrel and had these little, figures in it, and brought two of them to Prabhupada, or one of them. It was either Jagannath or Baladev Subhadra, and she brought it and put it in front of Prabhupada, and Prabhupada bowed down, and everyone looked at what was going on here, Prabhupada's bowing down to this little doll, and and then he said, "Are there any more of these?" And she said, "Yeah, I think there are." He said, "Are there two more of these?" I think there were. So he went back, and they're Jagannath Baladev. Then Prabhupada, worshipped them, and then told them to carve them in a larger form, and those were the first deities that were installed. And I mean, you could say, well, why don't we have Jagannath everywhere? Because Prabhupada installed Jagannath there, and the mind can go so many different places. It's time, it's circumstance, it's emergency, it's facility. So we shouldn't wonder about those things. We should just know, if we hear the Bhagavatam, we'll understand everything. Just keep hearing the Bhagavatam and you'll understand everything. And if you have a doubt or there's something, speculation that comes up, just put it on hold, put it on the shelf, and keep hearing the Bhagavatam. Eventually you'll get the answer. Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita Gita, it's all there. Is that it? Okay, thanks, Rati, for all you always give these interesting, reflections and questions. Very interesting. We'll see, Rati. She's coming for the Krishna Fest at the end of August, beginning of September. She'll come and sing. All right, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Maharaj Ambarish ki jai. Sudarsan Chakra ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night, same time, same place, same station. Hare Krishna.